Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our English Conversation podcast, where you can improve your English by listening to natural, real-life conversations. Today's topic is one that almost everyone thinks about at some point in life. Should you buy or rent a home? For many people, owning a home is a lifelong dream. It represents stability, independence, and a place where you can build memories with your family. Others believe renting offers greater flexibility, fewer responsibilities, and more financial freedom. So, which option is better? The answer isn't the same for everyone. It depends on your income, career, family situation, lifestyle, future plans, and personal goals. In today's episode, James and Emily will share their opinions, compare the advantages and disadvantages of both choices, and discuss practical situations that many people face when deciding whether to buy or rent. Even if you're not planning to move anytime soon, this conversation will help you learn useful English vocabulary related to housing, money, budgeting, and everyday life. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's conversation. Hi, Emily. It's great to see you again. I've been thinking about something recently because one of my friends is trying to decide whether he should buy his first house or continue renting an apartment. He asked me for advice, and honestly, I realized it isn't a simple question. There are so many things to consider before making such a big financial decision.
Hi, James. That's a great topic because I think almost every adult asks themselves that question at some point. Buying a home sounds exciting, but it's also one of the biggest commitments most people will ever make. Renting, on the other hand, offers flexibility, but sometimes doesn't feel as permanent. I don't think there's one perfect answer because every person's situation is different.
Exactly. When I was younger, I believed buying a house was always the smartest decision. I thought that paying rent was simply wasting money because after several years, you don't actually own anything. But as I learned more about personal finance, I realized the decision is much more complicated than I first imagined.
I used to think the same way. Many people grow up hearing that buying a home is one of the most important milestones in life. Parents often encourage their children to save for a house because it represents security and success. However, today's economy is different from what it was 20 or 30 years ago. Housing prices have increased dramatically in many cities. Interest rates change over time, and people's careers are much more flexible than they used to be.
That's very true. Years ago, many people stayed in the same job for decades. They bought a house, raised their families there, and retired in the same neighborhood. Today, it's much more common for people to move to different cities or even different countries because of new career opportunities. If someone expects to relocate in just a few years, buying a house may not always make financial sense.
That's one of the biggest advantages of renting. If your job changes or you decide you want a different lifestyle, moving is usually much easier. You're not responsible for selling a property, finding buyers, or worrying about changes in the housing market. Renting gives people the freedom to adapt when life changes unexpectedly.
At the same time, I completely understand why so many people dream about owning a home. Imagine finally having a place where you can paint the walls any color you like, renovate the kitchen, plant a beautiful garden, or even adopt a large dog without asking anyone for permission. That level of freedom is very attractive.
I agree. There's something emotionally satisfying about calling a place your own. Instead of paying rent every month to a landlord, you're investing in something that belongs to you. Over many years, as you pay down your mortgage, you gradually build ownership of the property. That can provide both financial value and peace of mind.
Another benefit is stability. If you own your home, you don't have to worry about a landlord deciding not to renew your lease or increasing your rent every year. You know where you'll be living, which can be especially important for families with children who want consistent schools and stable neighborhoods.
That's a great point. Stability matters for many families. Children often feel more comfortable when they can grow up in the same community, make long-term friends, and attend the same school for several years. Parents also appreciate knowing they won't have to move unexpectedly because of changes to a rental agreement.
There's also the possibility that your home's value will increase over time. If the housing market performs well, the property you bought today could be worth significantly more in the future. That appreciation can become an important part of your long-term financial plan.
Yes, although it's important to remember that property values don't always go up. Markets change, and no investment is completely risk-free. Some people assume buying a home guarantees financial success, but there can be periods when prices remain flat or even decrease. That's why people should buy a home, because it fits their lifestyle and budget, not only because they expect to make money.
That's very wise advice. I think one mistake people make is comparing themselves with others. If all of your friends are buying homes, you might feel pressure to do the same, even if you're not financially prepared. Major financial decisions should be based on your own goals rather than someone else's timeline.
Absolutely. Everyone's journey is different. One person may be ready to buy a house at 28, while another may prefer renting until their late 30s. Neither choice is automatically right or wrong. What's important is understanding your finances, your future plans, and your priorities before making such a significant commitment.
I've also noticed that many first-time buyers focus only on the monthly mortgage payment. They forget about property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, and unexpected expenses. Owning a home comes with responsibilities that renters don't usually have.
Exactly. If the roof needs repairs or the heating system stops working, homeowners are responsible for paying those costs. Renters usually call the landlord, but homeowners must plan for those expenses themselves. That's why having an emergency savings fund is so important before purchasing a property.
Even with those responsibilities, I still understand why people work so hard to become homeowners. For many families, owning a home represents years of saving, discipline, and achieving an important life goal. It's more than just a financial investment. It's an emotional one.
I couldn't agree more. A home is often where birthdays are celebrated, children grow up, friends gather, and unforgettable memories are created. Whether someone buys or rents, what truly matters is creating a place where they feel safe, comfortable, and happy.
Emily, after our last conversation, I started thinking more seriously about the financial side of buying a home. Many people focus on the monthly mortgage payment, but there are so many additional expenses that first-time buyers sometimes forget to consider.
That's absolutely true, James. A mortgage is only one part of the picture. Before someone even buys a home, they usually need a down payment, which can take years to save. Then, after moving in, there are property taxes, homeowners insurance, maintenance costs, utility bills, and sometimes homeowners association fees. All of those expenses should be included in the budget.
Exactly. Imagine buying a house that's slightly beyond your budget. At first, everything seems fine because you've managed to make the down payment. Then, a few months later, the water heater stops working, the roof needs repairs, or the heating system needs to be replaced. Suddenly, you're facing unexpected bills worth thousands of dollars.
That's why financial experts often recommend having an emergency fund before buying a home. Homeownership gives you more control over your property, but it also means you're responsible for every repair. Renters usually call the landlord when something breaks, while homeowners have to solve the problem themselves.
I have a friend who bought his first house a few years ago. He was excited because he thought his monthly mortgage payment was actually lower than the rent he had been paying. However, after adding taxes, insurance, maintenance, and regular repairs, he realized his total monthly housing costs were much higher than he expected.
I've heard similar stories. That's why it's important to look at the complete financial picture instead of comparing only rent and mortgage payments. Sometimes renting may actually leave someone with more money available for saving, investing, traveling, or starting a business.
That's a really interesting point because many people automatically assume that renting is wasting money. But if renting allows someone to invest the money they would have spent on a down payment, those investments could also grow over time.
Exactly. Financial success doesn't depend on owning a house alone. It depends on making smart decisions with your money. For some people, buying a home is the right investment. For others, investing in education, retirement accounts, or a business may provide even greater long-term benefits.
Another factor is interest rates. When interest rates are low, borrowing money to buy a home becomes more affordable. But when interest rates increase, monthly mortgage payments can become much more expensive, making home ownership less attractive for some buyers.
That's why timing matters. The housing market changes, interest rates change, and personal circumstances change. Buying a house simply because everyone else is doing it isn't a good reason. The decision should fit your financial situation rather than social expectations.
I've also noticed that renting provides more predictable expenses. If your lease says you'll pay a certain amount each month, you generally know what to expect until the lease ends. Homeowners, on the other hand, may suddenly face unexpected repair costs at any time.
That's one of the biggest advantages of renting, especially for young professionals or people who are still building their savings. They can focus on their careers without worrying about replacing a roof, repairing plumbing, or paying for expensive home maintenance.
Of course, renters also face challenges. Rent prices can increase every year, and sometimes landlords decide to sell the property or choose not to renew a lease. That uncertainty can make long-term planning more difficult.
That's true. Moving frequently can be stressful. Packing belongings, changing addresses, finding a new apartment, and adjusting to a new neighborhood all require time, energy, and money. Homeowners usually enjoy much greater stability in that area.
So it seems that both options involve financial trade-offs. Buying offers long-term ownership and stability, but requires greater financial responsibility. Renting provides flexibility and fewer maintenance costs, but doesn't build ownership in the property.
I think that's the perfect summary. Instead of asking which option is always better, people should ask which option is better for my current situation. The answer will be different for every person because everyone's income, career, family, and future plans are unique.
That's excellent advice. Financial decisions become much easier when we stop comparing ourselves with other people and instead focus on what truly fits our own goals.
Exactly. Buying a home isn't a competition, and renting isn't a failure. Both can be smart choices when they match someone's lifestyle and financial reality.
Emily, after talking about the financial side of buying and renting, I realized something important. The best decision often depends on where someone is in life. Two people can have the same income, but completely different lifestyles and goals. Because of that, the right housing choice for one person might not work at all for someone else.
I completely agree. That's why I always tell people not to compare themselves with others. Imagine a recent college graduate who has just started a new job. They may not know whether they'll stay in the same city for more than a year or two. In that situation, renting could be a very practical choice because it gives them the freedom to move if a better career opportunity appears.
Exactly. Early in a career, many people are still exploring different opportunities. They might receive a job offer in another city or even another country. If they've already bought a house, moving becomes much more complicated. They may have to sell the property, rent it out, or manage it from far away.
And selling a home isn't always quick or easy. Sometimes houses stay on the market for months before finding a buyer. During that time, the owner still has to pay the mortgage, insurance, taxes, and maintenance costs. That can create financial pressure if they've already moved somewhere else.
Now, let's think about a different situation. Imagine a married couple with 2 young children. They have stable jobs, they plan to stay in the same city for many years, and they want their children to attend the same schools. In that case, buying a home might provide the stability they're looking for.
I think so too. Families often value consistency. Children usually enjoy having a permanent home where they can grow up, make long-term friends, and feel connected to their community. Parents also appreciate having enough space for everyone and the freedom to make changes to the house without asking a landlord for permission.
I also think about people who work remotely. Since they can often work from anywhere, they have more flexibility than ever before. Some choose to rent because they enjoy traveling and experiencing different cities every few years. Others decide to buy a home in a quiet area where they can create a comfortable workspace.
Remote work has definitely changed the housing market. Before, many people had to live close to their offices. Now, some employees can choose places with lower housing costs, more space, or a better quality of life. That gives people more options than previous generations had.
Here's another example. Suppose someone loves traveling. They spend several months each year visiting different countries. Owning a large house that sits empty for long periods might not make much sense. Renting a smaller apartment could be more affordable and easier to manage.
That's a great example. Lifestyle matters just as much as finances. Some people dream of having a large backyard and a quiet neighborhood. Others prefer living in a city center where restaurants, public transportation, and entertainment are just a short walk away. Housing decisions should support the lifestyle you actually enjoy.
I also believe people should think about their long-term goals. If someone plans to stay in one place for 10 or 15 years, buying may become more attractive because they have time to build equity and enjoy the benefits of home ownership. But if they're uncertain about the future, renting can reduce stress and provide flexibility.
Absolutely. Another important factor is financial confidence. Even if someone qualifies for a mortgage, that doesn't necessarily mean they're ready to buy. They should ask themselves questions like, Do I have enough savings for emergencies? Can I comfortably afford repairs? Am I prepared for unexpected expenses? Those questions are just as important as the purchase price.
That's excellent advice. Sometimes people become so focused on owning a home that they stretch their budget too far. Then they spend years worrying about monthly payments instead of enjoying their new house. A home should provide comfort, not constant financial stress.
Exactly. Financial peace of mind has real value. Living in a smaller apartment that comfortably fits your budget can often be a better choice than owning a large house that creates anxiety every month.
One thing I've learned is that success doesn't always look the same for everyone. Some people measure success by owning a beautiful home, while others value the freedom to travel, change careers, or explore different cities. Neither choice is wrong if it supports the life they want to build.
I couldn't agree more. We all have different dreams, priorities, and responsibilities. The smartest decision is the one that matches your personal goals, not someone else's expectations. Whether you rent or buy, the most important thing is creating a home where you feel comfortable, secure, and happy.
After this conversation, I think the real question isn't simply, should I buy or rent? Instead, it's, what kind of life do I want and which choice helps me achieve it? Once you answer that question honestly, the decision becomes much clearer.
That's a wonderful way to look at it, James. Housing is about much more than buildings and money. It's about building a life that fits your values, supports your future, and gives you peace of mind every day.
Emily, after everything we've discussed, I've realized that buying or renting isn't really about choosing the better option. It's about choosing the option that makes the most sense for your current situation. I think many people spend too much time trying to prove that one choice is always superior, when in reality, both can be smart decisions depending on the circumstances.
I completely agree, James. One of the biggest mistakes people make is allowing social pressure to influence such an important decision. They see friends buying houses, posting pictures on social media, or celebrating with new house tours, and they start feeling like they're falling behind. But financial decisions should never be based on comparison. Everyone has a different income, different responsibilities, and different dreams.
That's excellent advice. I also think people sometimes underestimate how much planning is required before buying a home. Saving for a down payment is only the beginning. Buyers shall also prepare for moving expenses, legal fees, inspections, insurance, furniture, and future maintenance. Without careful planning, home ownership can quickly become stressful instead of enjoyable.
Exactly. I would also encourage people to avoid buying a house simply because a bank approves them for a large mortgage. Just because you can borrow a certain amount doesn't mean you should. It's much wiser to choose a home that fits comfortably within your budget and still allows you to save money every month.
I couldn't agree more. Financial flexibility is incredibly valuable. Life is unpredictable. Someone might lose a job, face unexpected medical expenses, or decide to change careers. Having room in your budget provides security during those uncertain times.
That's why I always recommend building an emergency fund before making a major financial commitment. Whether you're renting or buying, unexpected situations happen. Having savings available can reduce stress and help you make better decisions instead of reacting out of fear.
Let's talk about renters for a moment. Some people feel embarrassed about renting because they believe it means they haven't achieved enough. I don't think that's true at all. Renting can be a strategic decision that allows someone to invest money elsewhere, build their career, or maintain flexibility while deciding where they truly want to live.
Absolutely. Success isn't measured by whether you own or rent a home. Success means making thoughtful decisions that support your goals and create a stable, fulfilling life. For one person, that may mean buying a house. For another, it may mean renting while traveling, studying, or building a business.
Another piece of advice I'd give is to think long-term. Before making any housing decision, ask yourself where you hope to be in 5 or 10 years. Do you expect to stay in the same city? Are you planning to start a family? Do you enjoy traveling frequently? The answers to those questions can help guide your decision.
I completely agree. It's also important to be honest with yourself. Sometimes we make decisions based on emotions instead of facts. Buying a beautiful house might feel exciting today, but if the monthly payments leave you constantly worried about money, that excitement can disappear very quickly.
On the other hand, renting isn't always the perfect solution either. If someone plans to remain in one place for many years and has stable finances, continuing to rent forever may not help them build long-term wealth through home equity. That's why reviewing your situation regularly is so important.
Exactly. Life changes, and your housing decision can change too.
Renting today doesn't mean you'll rent forever, and buying now doesn't mean you'll stay in the same home for the rest of your life. The important thing is remaining flexible and making decisions that fit your current stage of life.
If a young listener asked me for one piece of advice, I'd probably say this: don't rush. Learn about personal finance, build good saving habits, avoid unnecessary debt, and take your time before making one of the biggest financial decisions of your life.
That's wonderful advice. I would add one more thing. Remember that a house is only a building until you fill it with love, kindness, laughter, and meaningful memories. Whether you rent a small apartment or own a large home, what truly matters is creating a place where you and the people you care about feel safe, comfortable, and happy.
I couldn't have said it better myself. At the end of the day, a home isn't defined by its size or price. It's defined by the life you build inside it.
Exactly, James. And when people focus on building a happy, balanced life instead of comparing themselves with others, they're much more likely to make decisions they'll feel proud of for many years.
Today's discussion reminds us that there is no universal answer to the question, should you buy or rent a home? Buying a home can provide stability, long-term ownership, and the opportunity to build equity. Renting offers flexibility, fewer maintenance responsibilities, and greater freedom to adopt as life changes. The right choice depends on many factors, including your financial situation, career plans, family goals, lifestyle, and personal priorities. Before making such an important decision, take time to understand your budget, build healthy financial habits, prepare for unexpected expenses, and think carefully about your long-term plans.
Most importantly, remember that a home is much more than a financial investment. It's the place where you create memories, celebrate achievements, support the people you love, and enjoy everyday moments that truly make life meaningful. Thank you so much for listening to today's English Conversation podcast. We hope this conversation helped you improve your English while introducing useful vocabulary and ideas about one of life's biggest decisions. If you enjoyed this episode, listen again, repeat the conversations aloud, and practice using the new expressions in your own English. Keep learning, keep speaking, and keep believing in your progress. We'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye, and take care.